Okay, all right, guys. All right, guys. Welcome to Football Queens podcast. Yeah, I'm excited to finally launch this podcast. Um, and I wish I had my bells here. I would have ring my bell in excitement and ecstasy that finally this podcast is underway. Um, so Football Queens podcast, all right? And just like the name, you should already have an idea that this podcast is designed to talk about women's football. Yeah. And during the course of this podcast, 90% of what we are going to be discussed is going to be about women's football. There are going to be some, segues, especially segueing from football to music. Yeah. But majorly, this podcast is about women's football. Why I say that there are going to be some segues is that I just want to blend football and music together, especially with the fact that I'm a fan of these two industries. The football industry, yes, football is an industry right now, and also the music industry. And yeah, so expect so much to come from this podcast. Too many interesting talks, too many interesting conversation. And come on, it's gonna be fun as we move on subsequently in this particular podcast. uh I'm doing this alone. Yeah, hopefully I may bring in some guests to join me in the conversation, but for now I'm doing this alone. And of course I'm not alone, because I know that you are at the other side listening to me, and together we are doing this. Okay, so I have not introduced myself. My name is Merem Samuel. Yeah, I am a Nigerian. Yes, I'm a Nigerian, and I am also a big fan of football. I started watching football in 2006. That is some, I think, 16, 17 years now. Yeah, 17 years. Yeah, so I've been following football since 2006, 17 years ago. And from that time till now, I've been a loyal fan of one particular football team, and that is Chelsea. And I'm speaking this in context to male football now, right? Because if you must know, women's football was not as big as it is right now in 2006. So my first introduction to football was, of course, men's football, and I started supporting Chelsea in 2006. I still support Chelsea this day, but Chelsea, they are not as good as they were. But like I said, I was speaking to a friend the other day, and I told him that football is a spirit. There's this spirit controlling football. You know when you get into a marriage, and for some reasons, good or bad, I won't tell you in church when they are when a man and the wife is being joined together by a priest, or if it's a court wedding by a registrar. They tell them this thing, that for better for worse, till death do us part, for richer for poorer. And that is the case for lots of football fans and their clubs. You get, it is like for better for worse, whether good or bad, through the stormy weather, you cannot leave the club. Even when you try to, within you know that your heart is somewhere else. You get, and even as much as Chelsea are not performing the way I want them to perform, I am a Chelsea fan, and I may not give them my full support these days now. Like, I'm indifferent when Chelsea loses, when Chelsea play games, whether they win, they lose, they draw. I'm not really invested emotionally as I used to some 5-6 years ago. You get, but I'm still a fan of Chelsea. So when I got introduced to the Chelsea women's team, I was like, okay, fine. Since I'm a Chelsea fan, since I'm a Chelsea fan, it's only natural that I also support the women's team, right? And I discovered that they are the best team in England, right? And come on, I just had to stick with them. And today, as of today, I would say I'm not ashamed to say this, but a bigger Chelsea women's FC fan that I am to the Chelsea men's team. And of course, I'm a Chelsea fan all through and through. So this is me give you a little bit of intro as to what made me start developing interest in women's football. Is of course it is the Chelsea women. Yeah, they are the ones who made me start having this interest in women's football. I've been following women's football for a long time, you get, but this big interest that I have right now, I owe it to Chelsea women's football. Yeah, so Chelsea women's football club. Yeah, what am I saying? Yeah, I owe it to them. So that is it. That is how I, have this strong interest in women's football. And even though that you might say that as a Nigerian, we have a very big women's football culture here. I mean, look at the Falcons. Without the shadow of doubt, they are the biggest women's football team in Africa. Yeah, they have the record of winning the most African Women's Cup of Nations, the AFCON, a record 9 times. No other team comes close. And then you may have teams like Equatorial Guinea, who I think they've won, once or twice. And recently, we have the likes of Cameroon, Morocco, South Africa, showing their strength in the sport. But Super Falcons, they've been there, they've done that. But that still did not make me have this full, interest in women's football up until recently. And yeah, but nevertheless, now that I'm in. So I follow women's football 360 degrees. All right. So that's about it. And during the course of this podcast, there are so many things that you're to expect. Yes, there are so many things that you should expect in this podcast. One of which is weekly updates. There is so much going on in the women's football scene. There is so much that you can't even imagine. Look, I have a Twitter account dedicated to just women's football. Now, the algorithm is set to just give me content around women's football. Even for my For You page, what I see there is women's football. So I know that there are so many things going on in the sport that come on, women's football is big. So we're gonna have weekly updates where we talk about things trending in the sports. Like I told you before, there might be some segue sometimes from the sports, the women's football or football in general, to music. Yes. Yeah. And we're also going to have the Queen of the Week and also the King of the Week. Yes. The King of the Week is not a mainstay in the podcast, but for this particular week, we have a King of the Week. But the mainstay is the Queen of the Week because we have to celebrate the women who are, the main actors in the women's football scene, right? But the King of the Week, like I said, is not the mainstay. But for one or two reasons, there may be reasons why we should have the King of the Week, right? Because let me just quickly paint you an example. First of all, I have a King of the Week for this particular episode, right? But let me just tell you why there may be Kings of the Weeks or King of different weeks. Let's look at the Barcelona Football Club, for instance, now. The Barcelona Femini. Now, it is coached by a man, all right? So, in as much as we know that women are the main actors in the women's sports, there are still some men doing good jobs, helping these girls, building them up, giving them good managerial advice and stuff like that. We have that with Barcelona. We have a male coach in Arsenal. We have a male coach in Manchester United. So if they go on to do extraordinarily well and they need to be celebrated, we can't celebrate them in the Queen of the Week category. So we will celebrate such persons in the King of the Week category here on Football Queens podcast. But like I said, it's not a mainstay. But what that I know for a fact is that we're always going to have Queen of the Week. And okay, when we get there, we'll cross that bridge and I'll tell you who my Queen of the Week is, or my Queens of the Week are. All right. So let's quickly move into the weekly updates for this week. First of all, I will start from home. And it's with all pleasure that I want to celebrate the Super Falcons' first choice goalkeeper, Chiamaka Nnadozie, who plays for Paris FC right there in the Division 1 Feminine in France. She won the goalkeeper of the season right there in the French Women's League. Yeah, the season is rounding up, and when season comes to an end, we have these awards here and there, hosted by club sites, respective leagues, and stuff like that. So this week saw the organizers of the Division 1 Feminine host their award gala night, and our very own, my very own, Nigeria's very own Chiamaka Nnadozie became the goalkeeper of the season. Yes, the best goalkeeper of the season, and it's a big deal. Why I consider it a big deal is because Paris FC is not PSG. It's not Paris Saint-Germain. They have PSG and they also have Paris FC. Paris FC is not like a major contender in that league. Yes, they are just behind Lyon and PSG. But when it comes to that league, two teams stands out: Olympique Lyonnais and Paris Saint-Germain. It used to be a one-side affair until PSG came on board. Before, it was just Olympique Lyon going on season in, season out, winning the league titles, until the emergence of PSG, who are now giving them a little bit of run for their money. So these two teams are the best thing after sliced bread in France. But then you would expect that the best goalkeeper should come from either of Lyon or Paris Saint-Germain, because they obviously have the best defense, they have the best attack. They are a well-rounded team. But then if someone like Chiamaka Nnadozie, who plays for Paris FC, goes all the way to win the best goalkeeper of the season, then it tells you how good she has been in that league. Right? So shout out to Super Falcons goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie for claiming that prize, and also Tabitha Shawinga, who plays for Olympique Lyon, Malawian. Yeah, she's from Malawi. Malawian Tabitha Shawinga became the player of the season, the overall best player of the season. And Africa. Come with the para. So shout out to both African ladies, Chiamaka Nnadozie, goalkeeper of the season, and Tabitha Shawinga, player of the season. Lyon, they have a date with Barcelona in the UWCL final, the Champions League final, on 25th of May. Yeah, 25th of May 2024. And that game will go down at San Mamés, the home ground of Athletic Bilbao. Yeah, Lyon, they defeated PSG to book a ticket in that final, and Barcelona, they defeated Chelsea. So sad. So sad. Yes. So it will be PSG, but it will be Barcelona versus Lyon in the final of the UWCL. Barcelona will be looking forward to see if they can make it their third UWCL title win. Yes, and Lyon, they are the overall champions. Lyon are like the Real Madrid in women's football. Yeah, what Real Madrid is in the UEFA Champions League is what Lyon is in the UEFA Women's Champions League. They've won it a record 8 times. 8 times, and if they win this one against Barcelona, it will be their 9th time of winning the UWCL. So, because of what Barcelona did to Chelsea, I won't even go into that. The referee needs to be penalized. Yes, he needs to be punished, but I won't even go into that. Because of what Barcelona did to Chelsea, dumping them out of the Champions League, all my support is going to Lyon, especially with the possibility of the current Lyon coach Sonia Bonpastor becoming Chelsea's new coach, the coach that will replace Emma Hayes, who will be going to US after this season to go coach the US women's national team. So I have a stake there as a Chelsea fan. So my heart is just shouting Lyon, Lyon, Lyon for that final. So let's see how it goes. Good luck to Lyon. Yes, good luck to Lyon. All right. And speaking of the US, I just announced recently about Emma Hayes joining the US women's national team to go, coach to go become their head coach. So let's touch on the US for a bit. So this week, it was reported that the USA and Mexico withdrew their joint bid to host the next FIFA Women's World Cup in 2027. They've withdrawn from hosting the. They've withdrawn their bid, more like they've withdrawn their bid of hosting the World Cup. Leaving just 2 candidates. Yes, on one hand we have Brazil, and the other hand a joint World Cup hosts that consists of Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. All right, so it's going to be either Brazil to host the World Cup, or just like we had in last year's World Cup when we had Australia and New Zealand hosting the World Cup. This time it's going to be 3 nations: Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. That is if they win the bid. Yeah. But the USA, they've withdrawn their bid following South Africa, who also withdrew their bid some time ago. So we have just 2 candidates, that is Brazil on one hand and Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. So we got to find out who the host will be on the 17th of May. Yes, 17th of May is when FIFA is going to announce the World Cup host for 2027, the Women's World Cup host for 2027. It was even surprising to me when I discovered that USA and Mexico are preparing the bid to host the World Cup in 2027. In 2026, yes, USA, Canada, and Mexico will be hosting the FIFA Men's World Cup. And I don't know how it's going to be for them to host the Men's World Cup, and the next year 2 out of the 3 nations will go on to host the Women's World Cup. And if you also check, USA, they've hosted the World Cup so many times. I think twice before. They've hosted the FIFA Women's World Cup before. The World Cup has also gone to Europe multiple times. Last year's World Cup was hosted by Australia and New Zealand. So that part of the world has also hosted the World Cup. The only 2 federations or confederations that have not hosted the World Cup is the CONMEBOL and CAF. So with South Africa withdrawing their bid to host the World Cup, I think it's best that you just give it to Brazil. Yeah, because a South American team has not hosted the World Cup before. So they just give it to Brazil to host this one. And Brazil, over the years, they've shown that they have what it takes to give the world a beautiful, you know, um, entertainment when it comes to hosting football tournaments and sports tournaments in general. They hosted the 2014 World Cup, that is the men's World Cup, and they also hosted the 2016 Olympics when the Olympics went down in Rio in 2016. So they've done this, they've done that. So let's see how it goes. 17th of May, we'll have the official updates of who is going to host the World Cup, be it Brazil or Germany, Belgium, and Netherlands. Maybe before now to then, any of these two candidates may also withdraw their bid to host the World Cup. But for now, we have just two candidates. All right, and I'm just giving you that. And also, another thing that's made the news this week is Crystal Palace. Yeah, Crystal Palace. They have now been promoted to the WSL. Yes, they won the Barclays Women's Championship. That is the second division of the women's league in England. And they are now promoted to the WSL. And shout out to Lexi Porter and Lucy Watson, two of Chelsea loanees, who plays for Crystal Palace. So they also lifted the Women's Championship trophy with Crystal Palace this week. So shout out to Crystal Palace. And what this means for the top flight football in England is that we are going to all 12, because the WSL is a 12 team league, not like the EPL that we have 20 league team, right? 20 team league. It's the WSL is just played by 12 clubs. So what this means is that next season, all 12 WSL teams have their men's team playing in the EPL. All right. Bristol City was relegated from the WSL, and of course, you know that Bristol doesn't have their men's team in the EPL this season. Now, Crystal Palace have come on to replace Bristol City because they've qualified. So it means that all 12 teams in the WSL, including Leicester City, are going to be having their men's team also playing in the next season of the EPL. Yes, I said Leicester City because this week saw their men's team qualify to play the EPL next season. Just like Crystal Palace, they also won the second division football league in England, that is the Championship. And now they've already qualified to, I think last week they gained promotion last week, but they just had to just put one, just add the caramels on the cake by sealing the league, winning the title. So they are also promoted to the EPL, and they already have their women's team playing in the WSL. So next season, all 12 WSL teams is also going to have their men's representation in the EPL. So shout out to all of them, from Arsenal to Chelsea to Manchester City to Manchester United to Tottenham to Liverpool to Aston Villa to West Ham to Leicester City to Crystal Palace. Who am I leaving out? So 12 of them, they're going to have their men's representation right there in the English Premier League. All right. So let's quickly give you the Queen of the Week. Yeah, Queen of the Week. But for this particular episode, I'm going to be having two queens. Yes, two Queens of the Week. First of all, my sentiment is tilting to Chiamaka Nnadozie, yes, for winning goalkeeper of the season right there in the French league, the French Women's League, the Division 1 Feminine, right there in France. So that's one of my Queens of the Week. Shout out to the Super Falcons goalkeeper. Yes. I can't stop stressing the fact that Chiamaka Nnadozie plays for Nigeria. So she's my number one queen of the week, and it will be very, very terrible of me if I don't celebrate this legend in this week's episode of the podcast. Now, this is the first episode, and it's only right that I celebrate the GOAT of women's football. And it's no other person than Marta of Brazil. You know, when you talk about the GOAT conversation in men's football, some names comes to mind. Messi, Ronaldo. Before both of them, we used to have Pelé, Maradona. Some may even tell you Johan Cruyff, Ronaldinho, Zidane. The list goes on and on. So there is this debate about who is the GOAT. Some will tell you it is Messi, Jare. Some will say it's Ronaldo. Some say leave that thing, Pelé. Some will tell you it's Maradona. But in women's football, unarguably, there is only one GOAT. Only one GOAT. And that is none other person than Marta of Brazil. Marta. Yes. She has the record for the most Ballon d'Or. No, I don't like using the word Ballon d'Or. Yeah. She has the record for the most FIFA Player of the Year award. She has won it a record 6 times. She has been the best footballer of the year 6 times. You need to go and check her record. Marta is the GOAT of women's football. And this week, she announced her retirement from football. Yeah, it's so sad that she did not win the FIFA Women's World Cup. But then it takes nothing away from her legacy and her brilliance as a football star. In 2007, she won the best player at the World Cup and also the highest goal scorer. Marta has a record of scoring the most goals at the World Cup. No one comes close. These days we hear about Alexia Putellas, Aitana Bonmati, Lauren James. Look, none of these players come close. Sam Kerr, none of them comes close. None of them can touch the garments of Marta. They don't bond them well. That is how revered she is. And this week, she announced her retirement from football, like I said. So I'm celebrating her for everything that she has done for the sport. She was an icon, or she is an icon. And she is an inspiration, and she's still been an inspiration to so many girls out there who want to play, the game of football. So shout out to Marta. I celebrate her specially. So I have 2 queens of the week, Chiamaka Nnadozie and Marta. Yes. Okay? And for this week, I have king of the week. Now, I said that this is not a mainstay in this podcast, but why I'm having this king of the week is because this particular person has shown support, right, to women's football. Yeah, so it needs to be celebrated, especially this week when he also announced that he will not be playing for Chelsea anymore after 4 years. Thiago Silva, another Brazilian, just like Marta. Thiago Silva, in an emotional video posted on Chelsea FC's Twitter account, announced that he will be leaving the club at the end of the season. Very emotional video. And I can recall countless times how he supported the Chelsea Women's Football Club. So many times going to match venues, posting them on his socials. Even the Chelsea Women's accounts had to, post about how to eulogize Thiago Silva. His support for Chelsea women's team has been unwavering, and for that support, he deserves to be the king of the week. And I'm wishing him well for all that he has done. There's this picture that sticks to my head. This picture of him and his wife. They were wearing Ashley Lawrence jersey, number 12 jersey. So that shows you how much support this man, Thiago Silva, has for women's football. See, I'm not even talking about the things that he has done, the great career that he had as a footballer. I'm not even talking about that. While at Chelsea, he became a leader. He was a leader. Just 4 years, he's a legend already at the club. So I'm not even talking about what he has done in men's football professionally and in his career. I'm just talking about his support to women's football, and that has earned him the first king of the week of the Football Queens podcast. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's about it. I'll round up right now. It's all over for this week. Now, before I leave, let me beg you. See, please, I need you to go to Twitter or X. Go there and please follow Football Queens. Follow Football Queens. We are on Twitter at _Football Queens. All right. See, as I am speaking into the microphone, this particular moment, maybe when you listen to the podcast, we might have an increased number of followers, which I pray. But as I am speaking right now, Chimbine, we no get 0 followers, 90 for that place. Of course, it's a new account, but please go and be the first set of followers in this community, and let's engage, let's conversate, let's talk women's football. All right, please. Okay, thank you so very much for listening to the podcast, and it's a wrap. My name still remains the same, never changing, never aging. I am M to the E to the REM, Merem Samuel, aka the eyes of the gods, aka the voice of the gods. Till I come your way again some other time, stay blessed and stay jiggy. Arrivederci.